Everywhere I go lately, the elephant in the room is always the exact same thing: prices. Whether you're at school or at work, or scrolling on your TikTok or Instagram feed, or just staying at home with your family, everyone seems to be asking the same burning question: why is everything suddenly so incredibly expensive? My name is Eddie Baldwin, also known as Eddie the Talented, and welcome to Economy Insight. Personally, right now, I haven't even got my driver's permit. I'm trying to study the driver's manual so I can ace the test and get even closer to getting my driver's license. But every time I walk past a gas station, I can't help but think, even if I do pass the test and get my license, am I actually going to be able to afford the gas to drive? Now let's get this one thing straight. I'm not a politician, and I'm definitely not some Wall Street economist. I'm a high school student. I run my own small business, Eddie's Lemonade, and I completely understand the feeling of prices rising whenever I'm trying to buy my supply. Sometimes I even help my family pay for things like groceries or gas, as well as buying my own things for myself. Because of that, the economy isn't just some concept to me, it's something that I go through every day. When the cost of transporting goods goes up, local businesses have to spend more money just to keep their doors open. When those businesses spend more money, the products they sell naturally become more expensive. And when those products become more expensive, everyday families are forced to make tougher financial decisions. As a young person preparing to step out into the real world, I think it's absolutely critical that we understand not just what's happening to our economy, but why it's happening. That's the entire mission behind this show. Today, we're diving deep into what triggers this entire economic chain reaction: gasoline. Why does the cost of filling up a gas tank fluctuate so wildly? Why can prices jump a whole 40 cents in a matter of weeks? And how does an event happening thousands of miles across the ocean drastically impact what we pay here at home? Let's find out. When you pull up to a gas pump, it's easy to assume that you're just paying for the liquid flowing into your vehicle. But according to the official data from the U.S. Energy Information Administration, that final price tag on the sign is actually broken down into 4 distinct parts: crude oil, refining cost, distribution and marketing, and federal and state taxes. The EIA reports that crude oil is consistently the largest component of the price you pay at the pump. So if we want to understand gasoline, we have to pull back the layers and understand the global oil market first. Oil is essentially the lifeblood of our modern infrastructure. It powers our cars, our delivery trucks, commercial airplanes, massive cargo ships, and industrial factories. But the journey from raw natural resource to the fuel in your car is incredibly complex. Step 1. Extraction. Crude oil has to be pumped out of deep reserves beneath the Earth's surface. Step 2. Transportation. That raw crude oil is loaded into a massive ocean tankers or pushed through thousands of miles of pipelines. Step 3. Refining. It arrives at a refinery, a massive industrial facility where the oil is treated, heated, chemically processed into usable products like diesel, jet fuel, and gasoline. Step 4. Local distribution. Finally, that refined gasoline is pumped into a local tanker trucks and driven directly to gas stations down the street. Now, by the time you grab that plastic nozzle at the pump, that fuel has already traveled through an enormous, highly sensitive, multi-billion-dollar global supply chain. Because the supply chain stretches across the entire planet, any single break in the link causes immediate panic. This brings us to the foundational law of economics, something you learn on day 1 of any business or marketing class: supply and demand. Supply is how much of a product is available for people to buy. Demand is how badly the public wants or needs to buy that product. When demand goes up, but supply stays exactly the same, prices rise. When supply drops but demand stays incredibly high, prices shoot up even faster. Think about it like this. If I'm running Eddie's Lemonade in the middle of July and there's a sudden regional shortage of lemons, my supply will drop significantly. But if it's 95 degrees outside, my customers will still want cold lemonade just as badly. My demand is high, but my supply is low, so the price of my lemonade has to go up. Gasoline works on this exact same principle, but with a massive high-stakes twist that economics call inelastic demand. If a clothing brand raises the price of sneakers from $80 to $200, you can just choose not to buy them. You can wear your old shoes. That is elastic demand. But gasoline is different. Millions of Americans rely on cars to get to their jobs every morning. Local businesses depend entirely on delivery trucks to transport goods. School districts need fuel for buses, and emergency services needed for ambulance and cop cars. Take my mom, for example. She works a school bus job, meaning her entire day revolves around transportation and getting kids safely to school. Talk about an industry that literally runs on fuel. Now, when gas and diesel prices spike, the school buses still have to complete their routes, and she still has to commute to work. She has to buy gas, and the school system has to buy fuel. Because our society's demand for fuel is so constant and inflexible, even a tiny 1% disruption in the global supply of oil can cause gas stations to hike up prices instantly. A lot of people think that gas prices are completely controlled inside the United States, or that the person running the local gas station is just waking up and deciding to charge more money. In reality, oil is traded on a global commodities market. This means that international events and overseas conflicts pull the strings on what we pay locally. Let's take a look at recent history. When the Russia-Ukraine war broke out, it sent massive shockwaves through international energy markets because Russia is one of the world's top oil producers. More recently, ongoing tensions in the Middle East involving major nations like Iran and Israel have kept global energy traders incredibly anxious. Here's one thing about global markets. Investors and oil traders don't wait for a disaster to actually happen before they react. They trade based on risk and prediction. If investors get even slightly worried that a conflict might block a vital shipping strait or damage oil infrastructure, they immediately start buying up oil futures to protect themselves. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, geopolitical uncertainty creates intense market volatility. When the world gets nervous about whether oil will be available next month, the global price of crude oil climbs today. And because gasoline prices directly trail the cost of crude oil, a headline from thousands of miles away translates into an expensive trip to the pump for a family right here in Pennsylvania. Now at this point in the video essay, you might be thinking, okay Eddie, I get the big picture. Global markets are complicated, supply chains are sensitive, and oil prices rise. But I don't drive yet. I don't even have my permit, just like you. Just kidding. That is a completely fair question. But the truth is, gas prices do not stay contained at the gas station. They affect everything you touch. Think about the last item you bought. Maybe it was a snack from the corner store, a new piece of clothing, or a package from Amazon. None of those items magically appeared there. They had to be transported. Last year, I spent a week attending PFEW, Pennsylvania Free Enterprise Week. If you've ever been there, it's an incredible program where students get a hands-on look at how businesses actually operate in the real world. One of the biggest, most valuable lessons I walked away with from PFEW was how heavily overhead costs and logistics dictate the final price of a product. In business, if your expenses go up, you can't just ignore it. And right now, transportation is the giant invisible cost built into every single consumer product. The semi-trucks supplying supermarkets, the cargo planes moving inventory, the delivery vans driving through your neighborhood, they all run on fuel. When energy costs spike, businesses face a massive surge in operating expenses. They are left with two choices: absorb the massive fuel costs themselves and make a significantly less profit, or raise the price of their goods and pass that exact cost directly down to the consumer, you. 9 times out of 10, they choose option number 2. And this is exactly how gas prices fuel the fire of a major economic problem: inflation. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, inflation is tracked using the Consumer Price Index, or the CPI. The CPI functions like a giant metaphorical shopping basket, measuring how the cost of basic goods and services changes over time. To put it simply, inflation means your money is losing its purchasing power. $1 today buys you noticeably less than it did back in the day. When fuel prices soar, moving goods becomes expensive, and the price of everything in that CPI basket goes up with it. That's why professional economists watch energy prices so closely. Gas is the first domino in the inflation effect. So, let's circle back to our original question. Why are gas prices so expensive? The answer isn't a single greedy company. It isn't a single political figure, and it isn't just one isolated event. Gas prices are the result of a massive, interconnected global web of supply and demand, international geopolitics, corporate transportation costs, and inflation. A single number glowing on a gas station sign doesn't mean it's just a price tag. It's a live reflection of a much larger story unfolding across the entire globe. That is why I believe it is so important for our generation to pay attention to this stuff. Not because we all need to study and become professional economists, but because these forces directly shape the world we are stepping into. They affect the jobs we will apply for, the businesses we will try to build, and the financial futures we want to create for ourselves. The next time you walk or drive past the gas station, don't just look at the number and walk away. Ask yourself why that number is what it is. Because once you start looking past the sign, you start truly understanding the economy. Thank you so much for joining me for episode 1 of Economy Insight. In our next episode, we're taking this exact conversation one step further. Because if rising fuel costs completely change transportation, and transportation dictates business expenses, what happens when those exact forces hit the supermarket? And let me tell you, checking out is a total shock. Why have our monthly grocery bills skyrocketed? We're going to investigate that exact mystery next time. I'm Eddie the Talented, and this has been Economy Insight. Stay smart, stay informed, stay talented, and I'll see you in episode 2.